me on. I'm like,
Said
okay.
hello to everybody.
Yeah, me and Taylor.
Stand back.
And then a couple of times I just saw it, honey.
You're having a good time.
Nice.
I want to introduce myself. My name is Marcy Bennett. I'm the Executive Director of the St. Joseph Convention and Visitors Bureau. Many of you know me as Marcy Eastwood. Isn't it nice to have an alibi? Because I can be both and I can hide. Welcome to the second annual St. Joseph Sports Hall of Fame enshrinement. Great crowd, great people, great friends of our community and of our athletic endeavors. I'd like to thank our current and past members of the Buchanan County Tourism Board, DVA, St. Joseph Convention and Visitors Bureau for their vision and their support to reestablishing the St. Joseph Area Commission, Sports Commission, and hence this Sports Hall of Fame and the win from last year. I know you get tired of hearing me say this, and some of you have heard it a lot of times, but you need to realize that the economic impact of tourism in Buchanan County in 2022 was over $200 million, and that is as reported by the Missouri Department of Revenue. So we're not making up numbers. We're not having some funky study done. This is as reported by the Missouri Department of Revenue on a county-by-county basis. $200 million. That's pretty impressive. A big part of that economic impact was generated by sports-related travel and will only grow in the future, as you'll hear later in the presentation. We're pleased to honor many of the people who have contributed to the great sports culture that we embrace in this region. Thank you to all of you for being here and to all that have played a great part in making this area a sports mecca. Now, I would like to introduce you to your MC, Mr. Brett Easley, who's the Executive Director of the St. Joseph Sports Commission and the Director of Development for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, who I have to say is doing an outstanding job. Brett?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. How's everybody tonight? Wow, I like that. I guarantee you I have a better view of you all than you do of me. I'm just saying. So the things that I lost sleep about last night, and not very much, I asked myself, where am I going to talk from this evening? Am I going to talk from behind that podium? And I would literally be the guy behind the curtain because you would never see me. Or am I going to freestyle out here so you have to look at me? I chose this. I'm going to roll with this, but I have to tell you, I do not have all 10 pages of this script memorized. I know you're probably like, wow, really? So I am going to look down occasionally. Don't hold that against me, but I'm going to roll this way, and we're going to have a great evening here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for coming out. As Marcy mentioned, I am the Director of Development and Sports Commission of the St. Joseph Convention and Visitors Bureau, and we're honored to have you tonight for our second annual enshrinement of the St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame. Tonight, as I mentioned, we are thrilled to once again have an outstanding crowd to witness and continue the dream and goal of many in our county and city for quite some time. The mission of the St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame is to recognize those individuals, teams, entities, significant feats, or accomplishments that have made a significant impact on sports history here in Buchanan County. Many have asked, what are your plans moving forward? Where is the permanent spot going to be for the Hall of Fame? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you tonight that we are working on that. We've got several things in the works, whether that be a permanent building, whether that be a place in another building. That is a goal of ours at someday, hopefully shorter term than longer term. Because as I mentioned, I think a lot of people thought when we came out of our induction last year, I think a lot of people thought that was a one-time shot. It's not a one-time shot. This is an infinite shot because remember, ladies and gentlemen, our history continues to be told every single day. And as I've told people throughout this process, there's more history that I don't know here in St. Joe than I know. But that's what's been so fun about this to me. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored this year to have the Herzog Companies present our St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Founded in 1969 by Mr. Bill Herzog and then joined by son Stan and Randy. Herzog has grown to become one of North America's most respected private rail and heavy highway construction organizations in the country and across the world. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce Mr. Al Landis, President and Chief Operating Officer of Herzog Contracting, to give tonight's opening welcome. Al.
Well, I've had 2 full-time employers in my lifetime, the U.S. Army and Herzog, and I just retired after 48 years here 2 years ago. So needless to say, when it comes to the Herzog family and all of us, you're going to hear me talk later on because I'm going to talk about Herzog Motorsports. But I'm retired, but I'm always going to call Herzog we for that. And for our ability to be able to contribute in this, when Brett was looking for that, I said, don't worry about it, you already got it. So anyway, I'm here, and we hope you appreciate us being a sponsor.
Thank you very much, Al. We appreciate your outstanding support of this event. The St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame is owned and operated by the St. Joseph, Missouri Sports Commission, which is a division of the St. Joseph Convention and Visitors Bureau. Over the last 9 months, our Sports Commission has been very active in crafting, attracting, partnering, or enhancing the right fits of sporting events here in St. Joseph, Missouri, and Buchanan County. It has been a very active 9 months. I'm very proud to have had that role, and I would be remiss tonight if I didn't let you in on a little bit what we've been working on and what we've got coming up. So after tonight, we've got about 7 more weeks, and we will host the inaugural MIAA Volleyball Championship here in St. Joe, November 10 through 12 down at Civic Arena. Right before Christmas, we've had some outstanding high school basketball play here in our community. We have all 5 city high schools committed to playing a boys-girls doubleheader at Civic Arena, along with East Buchanan, right before Christmas in our inaugural St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame Holiday Hoops Classic. You might say, why brand that under the Hall of Fame brand? Well, we are always looking to grow our brand. We're going to have about 4,000 people in Civic Arena over the course of those 2 days that are going to maybe see the brand for the first time and say, hey, I know somebody that needs to be in the Hall of Fame. How do I nominate them? Well, that's the great part about it is they're going to have their eyes on this event. Obviously, we are building up towards next March and the return of the NCAA Division II Women's Elite Eight Basketball Championship at Civic Arena. That is a 2-year host in 2023 and 2024. We're excited about that as well. That event has not been in town since 2011. An event you have not seen out in the public as of yet, but you will, and it's in your program tonight. Beginning in 2025, we are going to be the new home of the Missouri State High School Activities Association State Volleyball Championship. That is 20 teams over the course of 3 days. That's a November championship as well. I'm going to guess our area folks are going to like that commute a little better than Cape Girardeau. No offense to our friends in Cape, but we're excited to have that event here. And then I'm going to give you another little foreshadow. We probably will not release this for a while, but we're going to host a Division I college basketball game here in St. Joseph a year from December. I will leave it at that for right now. I will leave you tempted there, but we are excited about that. I always tell our board members and anybody that will listen to me, we always have an emphasis on what's next here, ladies and gentlemen. That is our emphasis. Well, these last 9 months for me, well, a very transitional time, have been an absolute blast. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank a couple of individuals that are in the room. Well, one's in the room and one you will hear about here momentarily. First, I want to recognize the executive director. You heard from her tonight of the St. Joseph Convention and Visitors Bureau, Marcy Bennett. Marcy's really had the vision of what the rebirth of the Sports Commission could look like here in St. Joseph. She has provided me the opportunity of a lifetime. Please give Marcy a good round of applause. Secondly, I'd like to recognize the late Mr. Frank O'Malley. You will know that we hold this induction ceremony in his memory and honor every year, and we will for every year for the foreseeable future. Frank, the founder and longtime owner and operator of O'Malley Beverage, many of you in the room knew him well, which for many years sat right next to the hotel here, was a long-time supporter of all things that were good in our community, the region. He was a local philanthropist, and although I did not know him personally, I am proud to share something in common with him as one of only 3 chairs of the St. Joseph, Missouri Sports Commission. Frank had the vision of what the Sports Commission could look like here in St. Joe. He was one of the very few people that I have ever heard of that people had a hard time telling him no. And I want to welcome up to the stage this evening an individual that knew him very, very well. He also had a really big birthday party last night. I think many of you were there. Bob Slater, would you come up here and share some words about Mr. Frank O'Malley?
Back in here. You know, if you have not met Frank O'Malley, you missed out on a lot of life. Frank was eternal optimist. Let me tell you one little story that illustrates Frank. Frank became an All-American guard, small college guard at St. Benedict's College, now Benedictine, playing both ways in the early 1950s. But Frank went to St. Benedict from Chicago. The football program very went down. And so Frank went home at Christmas and said, Frank, his family friends told him, how'd you do this year? Frank said, well, we were 5-5. Didn't sound too bad. What Frank didn't tell him, he meant, well, we lost 5 at home and 5 on the road. Frank was a long temper. The opposite Frank would not let that happen. You know, if you knew Frank O'Malley, his energy was enthusiastic. He would come out and sports commission is one of many things he got going. I remember one time in Notre Dame, 6 of every year went with Frank for a football game there. And so after the Friday lunch, there were 6 of us there, after having a $30 burrito and a couple beers. Yeah, Notre Dame's Catholic institution, they sell beer at lunch. But after we went up to the Hall of Fame room, and we walked around there, looked at all the achievements achieved through the year. And Frank said to me, Bob, let these other guys browse. You and I go down and talk to the AD. And Frank said, Frank, this is Southern Cal weekend. Unless you got $1 million check, the 80, and I'll talk to you. Frank said, well, let's see. So we walk in, this administrative office, and he says, Frank O'Malley got 130. Well, on the way there, he said, Bob, what's the AD's name? I said, Mike Aldridge. Mike Wilkins, pardon me. And so, okay, so we walk in at the administrative office, and Frank says to the receptionist, Frank O'Malley, 130 appointment to see Mike. Now, 5 minutes ago, I didn't know the guy's name. That's our first name basis. But he said, go see Mike. And so she said, oh, Jackson, listen, I don't have you down. He said, well, there must be some mistake. Mike wanted to see me. Call him and tell him, Frank O'Malley, Armed Forces Sports from the Pentagon is here to see him. No, he didn't make it, retired for 15 years. So it's on the phone. Oh, he's awful busy right now, but can he come back and have at 2:30? And he can see you then. So sure enough, we get back at 2:30, go and have a nice visit. Frank, you never know what's going to happen to him. He invites Wolverine, hey, how about coming out to LeBron and speak one of our fundraisers? Wolverine said yes. So anyway, we leave the room, come out, walk down to the reception area again. Frank said, is this where I pick up my parking pass? I never know what's going to go on right next to me. The guy said, this one just got turned in, Frank. Here, get some parking pass. I looked at it and said, Frank, you know, this is a 9-iron shot. Not Phil Mixon 9-iron, but Bob Slater 9-iron. Lane Caper would go in. I think you got the coach's pass. But Frank, one of these guys, take the biblical admonition. Ask and you shall receive. Frank never hesitated to ask about anything. He's a great fundraiser, a great boost for St. Joe, and the man who really got the sports commission going years and years ago. But it's a great tribute. I'm sorry that Frank's son, Pat, could not be here tonight. He called me last night. Well, Bob, I can't make it. I want my motorcycle in Alabama. And then I called his son, Frank's grandson. Well, Pat, pardon me, Matt, can you make it here? No, I'm at the airport in Chicago. I'm on my way to Florida. So they always get around. But anyway, Frank was a great guy. He did a great thing for St. Joe. A wonderful man, a great personality, but a man who never put over an answer. He never thought that you could get something done. So a great tribute to Frank O'Malley. As this thing grows and prospers, I think we look back at the foundation laid by Frank O'Malley, a real man. Thank you very much.
Bob Slater, ladies and gentlemen, 90 years young on Wednesday. And also have a big round of applause for Mr. Frank O'Malley. This time I'd like to recognize some VIPs that are here with us tonight. The Mayor of St. Joseph, Mr. John Josendale, is here. We'll hear from him momentarily. The Western District Commissioner of Buchanan County, Mr. Ron Hook, is with us tonight. Executive Director of the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, Mr. Gerald Andrews, is here tonight. We'll love to honor the third chairperson of the St. Joseph Sports Commission. Patsy Smith's here tonight. We have some members of the inaugural class of the St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame with us here tonight. My good friend, Mr. Charlie Burry's down here in the front row. Mr. Wes Barnett is here in the second row. We'll hear from him in a matter of moments as well. Coach Bill Snyder's here in the second row. And representing Meyerhofer Fast Pitch, Mike Meyerhofer and Todd Meyerhofer are here tonight. Thank you so much for being here tonight, folks. Well, I want to recognize some foundation partners of the Sports Commission. These events do not happen without their generous support. We have two foundation partners, and they have believed in our commission from day one. The Hilliard Company is represented tonight. Bob Roth is here. Bill Grimwood is here. Please give them a big round of applause. Also a foundation partner, Jeff Ellison's here tonight from Ellison Archer Architects. Lori's here as well. The sponsor of the inaugural Coach Bill Snyder Woman of Impact Award is Commerce Bank. Tonight's awards were made possible by our friends at Gray Manufacturing. Our Special Olympics Athlete of the Year is presented by the Hook Family Foundation, Mr. Ron Hook. We'd also like to thank a major sponsor of tonight's ceremony, Missouri Western State University Athletics. Please give these folks a round of applause. We have 14 patron sponsors of the event this year. They are shown on your screen. They have an ad in the program. Please give these folks a big round of applause. And thanks to all of these fine folks for sharing our event. Well, ladies and gentlemen, at this time it gives us great pleasure to recognize the inaugural Coach Bill Snyder Woman of Impact Award, presented by Commerce Bank. Our committee established this award this year in celebration of the 50th anniversary of Title IX, which will be given annually to a female athlete, coach, administrator, or contributor to sports in our county who accomplished elite achievement over the last year. The award is named after Coach Snyder as a tribute to the leadership and mentorship that his mother, Marionetta, played in shaping his life. And at this time, it's my pleasure to welcome St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame inductee class of 2021, Coach Bill Snyder, to the stage to present the award and say a few words. Let's go.
I'll try it behind the...
Yes.
Thank you very much, and thank each and every one of you for being here this evening. This was, as I've learned for the last couple of years, this is an amazing event. But having been born and raised in St. Joseph, Missouri, it's been a good portion of my life here. You know, it's easy to understand. And I have always had a strong feeling about the people of St. Joe and how well they support so many things that take place in this community. It is an amazing community, and amazing communities are made up of amazing people. And I appreciate each and every one of you being here. I appreciate those of you who sponsor all facets of the community and all facets of these awards that are being issued this evening. The Sports Commission, I cherish, you know, what you have done and continue to do for St. Joe. Last year, you know, when they inaugurated the board, I visited with the people that were here about my mother, Marionetta Snyder, the most amazing person, not just in my life, the most amazing person I've ever known, and truly a special person. But one thing that I didn't mention, my grandmother and my grandfather, on both sides, on my mother's side and my father's side, also resided lifetime in St. Joseph, Missouri. And one set of grandparents in the south end, one set of grandparents on the east side. We lived on the north side, my mother and I in an apartment on Ruby Doo Avenue, 5th and Ruby Doo, and only 3 blocks away from the river. So we touched every place in St. Joseph, Missouri, and I love every aspect of it. You know, one of the things that I, looking through, I wasn't aware who all was being inducted until I read through the manual and came upon Gus Kirkson's name. And we lived, our apartment was 2 blocks from the Civic Auditorium. And I loved the wrestling matches there. Now, I could never afford to go. So I hate to tell you this story, but I'm going to. I would sneak out of the apartment on, I don't know if it was Fridays or Saturdays, whenever they had defense, and I would go down to the auditorium, and I would go to the back door. The railroad tracks running behind the auditorium there, and I would go to the back door and wait till somebody came in or out, and then I would jump into the And what I found out was that when I went in, I would go up into the auditorium to watch the matches, and I had an autograph book. And I've got autographs of every wrestler that's ever wrestled professionally, or whatever you call that. But when I went in the door, the very first time, I passed by a locker room. And there were 2 gentlemen in wrestling gear sitting there drinking alcohol out of a bottle. I went on into the auditorium, and pretty soon the 2 of them showed up and wrestled against each other. It broke my heart. Now, I think it's my distinct honor, and I had the opportunity to meet the young lady here just a little bit ago, but just amazing the things that she has done for the Woman of Impact Award. Someone that has had an amazing impact on St. Joe in just a brief period of time, but I've looked through, you know, what she has done in her career, and to me, that has been very, very special. You know, I look back at the number of things that she did at Texas Tech, which obviously she played against us at Kansas State while I was at Kansas State. She was obviously here at Northwest Missouri State University. Had some time also at Oklahoma State, but an amazing young lady, amazing success. I think when she's been here, you may have corrected me if I'm wrong here, 3 years, I think, at Missouri Western, and has won more than 20 games in 2 of those 3 years. You know, that's pretty special. I know a lot of very fine coaches that haven't achieved 1 yet. That's pretty special. But nevertheless, let me introduce to you the wonderful young lady. Want me to make the introduction?
Please, absolutely.
From women's basketball coach at Missouri Western, Candy Whitaker.
Candy Whitaker's Griffins went from 6 wins in 2021 to shocking the region, advancing to the Elite 8, winning 24 games this past season, making the first Elite 8 appearance since 1995.
All 3 nights of the regional tournament, despite kind of being the underdogs in all of those games, was that we were good enough. You looked us in the eyes and said, you are good enough to win this game. Kind of setting the X's and O's aside and just having a talk with us about courage.
As she led a team of young players with some experience to new heights.
The memories that I got to make under her in just a year are things that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life and someday get to tell my kids about.
One of your biggest impacts that you left in my heart is not only teaching us about the game of basketball, X's and O's wise, but you've taught us that it translates to life. You have made it very clear that grit and determination can get you anywhere in life.
Her players bought into the program, and that's what's made it so successful. The belief in one another and their head coach.
Coach is a very loving woman. She has been here for me due to me being long distance from home. She's always 1 call away.
24 wins, MIAA Tournament Championship semi-final appearance, and just a second Central Regional appearance in 2000. Going to the Elite Eight for the first time since 1995, Candy Whitaker is a 2022 Bill Snyder Woman of Impact Award recipient.
I really appreciate you for being here for me through everything. Thank you. Congrats, and let's go have another great season.
Coach, congratulations. We all love you. Thank you for everything that you do for us, the sacrifices that you make.
Love you very much. Great job on this award, and grow up.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2022 West Side Woman of Impact, Candy Whitaker! Well, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. It's time to enshrine the 2022 class of the St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame. To be eligible for nomination, you have to meet one of the following criteria: either born in Buchanan County, have made your sports career in Buchanan County, or be making your sports career in Buchanan County. You may say, what the heck is the difference between 2 and 3? You do not have to be retired to be eligible for nomination and selection. So that's the difference between 2 and 3. There will be no more than 10 individual inductees, 1 team inductee, and 1 Special Olympics area athlete of the year in any one class. And all of our Hall of Fame classes, ladies and gentlemen, are elite and unique. The 10 individuals and the 1 team are selected by an anonymous committee. No, I'm not going to tell you who those folks are. That's why they are anonymous. And to be eligible for selection for the current year's class, we must have received the nomination by April 1st. You know, I chuckle every time somebody tells me that your Hall of Fame class is great, because it wouldn't be a Hall of Fame class if it wasn't great, right? Right. This class includes innovators, Olympians, icons, professional athletes, legends, Hall of Fame coaches, a championship team, in which all of these folks are excellent promoters of St. Joseph and Buchanan County. There are many things that I've enjoyed about putting together a Hall of Fame program. The thrill for me is always to getting to visit with our living inductees and also family members of those that are no longer with us. Some I know very, very well. Some I have never met. But it's always very apparent to me why these individuals have all had the success that they've had. They're prompt, they're diligent, they're driven, they care what's going on with others around them, and in almost all cases are all members of other halls of fame, and in some cases multiple halls of fame. Also, as we meet tonight's inductees, I came up with an adjective that I thought described all of them the best. Some of them would be obvious, and some of them the inductees are going to be going, Brett, really? Seriously? I'll explain, I promise. I feel that describes who they were between the lines. Before we meet the class of 2022, I want to thank all of our inductee sponsors for your outstanding support of this year's event. The inductee sponsors are shown on the screen. They will be portrayed during each inductee segment of the program. Please join me in giving these entities a big round of applause. I also want to once again thank our good friends at Rogers Pharmacy for being our enshrinement sponsor. Mel Rogers is here with us tonight. I see you back there, Mel. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our first inductee this evening is the Special Olympics Area Athlete of the Year. From day one, the outstanding history of Special Olympics in Northwest Missouri, our committee felt it was only right to include this recognition and induction as part of the ceremony on an annual basis. The word I use to describe our winner this year is fearless. Don't you think, Tanner? Fearless. I think when you see his video and hear his speech, it will be very clear why. And to introduce tonight's recipient formally, I'd like to invite Buchanan County Western District Commissioner and Sports Commission Board Member and sponsor of the Special Olympics Athlete of the Year, Mr. Ron Hook, to the stage. Come on up, Ron.
Thank you, Brett. Move the mic.
Yeah, please.
great event, and I appreciate every one of you that came out tonight to help us welcome these inductees into the Hall of Fame. Tanner's a great kid. I'll tell you, I've known Tanner for, since probably 2007 or 8, I think, when we started working. Mel got me involved with Special Olympics quite some time before even becoming a politician. And it's just carried on. I'll tell you what, they grab at your heart, and they're great people to work with, not only the staff, but all the athletes. And Tanner Rencher, he's been a Special Olympian for the state of Missouri since, 31 years ago, I guess, hasn't it been? Started when you were 9 years old, so put that together, you're 40 years old, and still participating. Tanner has participated in track and field events, softball, bowling, basketball, flag football, and his latest and greatest is what? Powerlifting. Powerlifting. That's his favorite, I think, too. Tanner gives 100% of himself every time he goes out, and if he's not participating, he gives 100% of the cheering. He comes to every event, no matter what it is, to cheer on his fellow athletes. Tanner's a great kid, great individual, and it's because of his parents and his sister. They've helped him along, they've supported him, and they've done everything they can to make sure that Tanner achieves his goal, and that is to win. Tanner's been serving as a global messenger for the Special Olympics for the past 9 years. He shared this amazing story to overcome all odds and his love for Special Olympics Missouri to over 100 times in the past 9 years and to over 5,000 people when he goes and speaks. He shares his message with elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, other students across the state. He's brought the students, teachers on board with both Missouri Western and Northwest Missouri State to plunge in the polar plunge for the athletes in North Missouri by sharing his story with them. Not only does Tanner get out and promote the polar plunge, but he also participates. He jumps in, well, let's not say that. He gets his feet wet, let's say that. It gets cold out there, doesn't it? So, he does everything he can, and I think the last time that they went out to raise money for Special Olympics through the polar plunge, his team raised $8,500. Tanner, I can't go through all the accomplishments you had. We'd be here a while. You've gotten medals after medals after medals on your accomplishment. You have some of the greatest medals that you've ever won around your neck tonight, and I hope you explain to them what those are for. But Tanner, it gives the Hook family great privilege to stand up here and to honor you as a Special Olympic Athlete of the Year and the induction into the 2022 Sports Hall of Fame. Tanner.
It gives him a place where he can compete on his level. You know, in school, he didn't really have that. He got to be the sports manager of the teams, but he never got to be on the team. He gets to compete, he gets to play alongside his friends, just like he saw people do in school, you know, that he didn't get to do, and I think he just loves that.
Rencher started competing at 9 years old, playing a variety of sports, track and field, bowling, basketball, flag football, softball, although his sister says softball might not have been his favorite.
He was playing second base and like the ball got hit up in the air. And he didn't move for it, it landed like 2 feet away, you know, and I remember my dad going, Tanner, what are you doing? He's like, I was thinking about catching that ball.
Later in his Special Olympics career, he's picked up powerlifting, a sport that's taken him to new places.
He got to see himself improve, like, by the numbers, and I think he really likes that. And he saw his body change, you know, it was awesome for him.
Rencher made it to the 2010 National Games, taking home silver and bronze medals. But this year, he also made it to Orlando for the Games, bringing home 4 medals, including a gold medal.
I know this means a lot for me, and my family came to see me determine on the.
Ringer has won a lot of games and events over the years, but that's not all Special Olympics are to him. It's a family that competes together and loves each other.
I want to congratulate you to be selected in the Hall of Fame. I'm so proud of you. Can't wait to see you in the Hall of Fame. Congrats, bud.
For all of his success and dedication to Special Olympics over the years, Tanner Ringer, the 2022 Special Olympic Area Athlete of the Year.
It is going to mean the world to him, and we're just so blessed and honored that, that he's going to get this award.
Also, I wanted to shout out and give a thanks to Hy-Vee. Tanner's worked at Hy-Vee for how long now? 10 years. And I'll tell you what, there's not a customer that doesn't come in Hy-Vee that doesn't know Tanner. So, thank you, Hy-Vee, for your support and for all the camaraderie you give Tanner. I know he's got some fans back here from Hy-Vee, and it's just great to see that they support you just as much as everybody else in the community. Tanner, it's all yours.
I do want to thank for Melanie Prowse for her hardest work for the Special Olympics for the North area. And I do want to thank for Clint. Thank you for everything he does for me. And I do want to thank for Stan Smith when he coached for the Team Missouri. I know it means a lot for me and for his Team Missouri. And I want to thank my friends, my family, support me, and thank you for all for coming. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2022 Special Olympics Athlete of the Year, Mr. Tanner Ringer! Well done, my friend. I knew you'd be a great leadoff hitter. That's awesome. Envied. Envied is the word I think of when I describe our next St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Vic Eaton. Vic Eaton's history came to light to me over this past NFL playoffs. There was a story about Vic in a local newspaper, and I began thinking, golly, Vic Eaton, that's interesting history. And then Vic Eaton, the best compliment I can pay Vic Eaton is when I run into people that say, man, I saw him play, but I really don't know that I can tell you very much about Vic. And then 45 minutes later, they have told me a lot about Vic, including what they remember about him playing for the Lindbergh Adams, the Lafayette Fighting Irish, the Missouri Tigers, being the All-Big 7 Passer of the Year for the Tigers, and then getting drafted in the 11th round by the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1955. Now, what you probably know is playing in the NFL in the 50s is a little bit different than playing in the NFL in the year 2022. However, it did not mean that it wasn't any more tough or difficult. Vic played quarterback and punter for the Steelers. He played 1 year, and he beat out a guy on the Steelers, some guy you might know named Johnny Unitas. Vic went to serve our country in the Air Force. He was a pilot, and when he came back from his service 3 years later, I had an opportunity to talk to Vic, and Vic said, money just wasn't good enough in the NFL those days. I was not going back to play football. But ladies and gentlemen, please turn your attention to the screens for an exclusive interview we shared on the phone with Vic, along with other history. Vic is not able to be here with us tonight. He lives in the Minneapolis area. He does not travel long distances, but it was a pleasure to visit with him.
There's a lot of pride in the North Side, especially on those Friday nights in the fall, where legends were made. And one of those icons was none other than Vic Eaton.
a lot of things that happened in my favor. There had to be somebody other than me, and I blame God for it. So he was a big factor.
He was an idol for a lot of us, as were some of his peers back then, those older guys were.
Eaton took the field at Lafayette his freshman season, turning it into a 4-year letter winner. Even honorable mention honors as a National High School All-American. He was a multi-sport athlete at Lafayette too.
I was good enough, tall enough, fast enough, whatever, to do it.
In 1951, made the trek down to Missouri to play quarterback and punter for the Tigers.
And Dad took Sonny Younger and I up to Lincoln, Nebraska to see Missouri play Nebraska up there when he was playing. So he had a following, not just of us little punks, so to speak.
Eaton led the Big Seven in passing in 1954 and was drafted in the 11th round of the 1955 NFL Draft by the Pittsburgh Steelers, beating out future Hall of Fame quarterback Johnny Unitas.
It was just different. It was a small scale thing compared to today. And our relationship with Johnny Unitas was kind of good. I believed strongly in that. God helped me along the way, and here's another case. He helped Johnny too.
He only played one season for the Steelers before being commissioned into the United States Air Force as a pilot and served for 3 years.
And I punted better than I ever punted at college, and why, I don't know.
His career, one of legends for many young athletes at the time on the north side. So when someone mentions Vic Eaton's name, you listen and learn about one of the greats.
Well, if you have some physical ability, the idea is to pay attention and work hard, practice hard, and keep a positive attitude. Just brings back a lot of memories. And St. Joe's always been near and dear to my heart, and I consider this to be a great honor, just to be part of it.
Envy. Ladies and gentlemen, 2022 St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame member, Mr. Vic Eaton. Trailblazer. That's the word I would use to describe St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame member, HL, Doc Childress. Yes, please applaud. I first met Doc in the fall of 2000. I knew him as the team optometrist for Missouri Western State University Athletics. In those days, I knew Doc was serious, quiet, to the point. For those that know Doc well, some of you may say that may or may not be mostly true. But what I didn't know about Doc is that he was a world-renowned sporting clay shooter, the most difficult shooting sport in the world. He started shooting clays in 1989, and 2 years later, he found himself on Team USA and became the first American to win a medal in world competition. Doc was competitive, but a mentor to many, and that is on display in this clip. Trailblazer, Doc Childress.
For more than 50 years, HL Doc Childress served the St. Joseph community as a local optometrist.
Doc was, he was very caring. You've heard the song Humble and Kind. That was Doc. He was very loyal to his friends.
That's just the beginning. Childress, known around the country and the world as a legendary hunter.
If he could see the shot, which he did, he would visualize the shot and know where he was going to pull the trigger at. He related it to kicking a field goal, golf shots, you know, visualizing the shot before you ever make it. And I think that's what made him so good.
He started shooting sporting clays in 1989 in the Veterans Division, making Team USA in 1991.
I went with Doc quite a bit as far as shooting sporting clays in Chillicothe, Kansas City, Clinton, Missouri, different spots, and everybody knew him. Everybody loved Doc. If you couldn't find him, he was telling everybody how to shoot, what kind of leads.
Following year, Childress took home a bronze in the World Championships, becoming the first American to win a medal in world competition. He ended up winning 3 Missouri State Championships, 2 SGAs in the 1990s, and was an All-American sporting clays for 10 straight years.
One of the icons that got sporting clays started. He was one of the first ones that of course, in St. Joe, the first American to ever win the world.
Childress is a member of multiple Hall of Fames, including the Waterfowlers Hall of Fame. So while you might have known him as your optometrist, Childress was one of a kind Hall of Famer.
Doc had a lot of patience. I think that's one thing that my father and him had in common. He was truly loyal to his friends, and I think those are the things that I've learned a lot from Doc. He was a big family person. He loved his family. Basically, he was a true gentleman.
Ladies and gentlemen, speaking on behalf of the late Doc Childress tonight, as his stepson, I'd like to welcome Mr. Greg Hatton to the stage.
First, Brett, I'd like to know what energy drink you consume. I gotta get some of that. It's great. Hey, on behalf of the family, thank you very much for the honor and the privilege to be here to speak tonight. We've got my mom in the front row, Sister Nancy, Rick, my brother is around somewhere. His daughter Lisa and her husband Bill are here as well, and my wife Janet is here. If you knew Doc, let me start with a question. How many here in this room was Doc your optometrist? Good show of hands. How many hunted with him ducks, pheasant, turkey? How many were hunting buddies? I saw a lot of those when I came in. How many were walnut products? Were you participating with Doc back in the day? He was a man of many interests, and they all revolved around sports. And he was right in the middle, in the mix with a lot of the best in the city. And you know, everything I was going to say on these cards, you already said, all the awards and whatnot. So I'll just speak briefly about the impact that he had on the community. And Sporting Clays, which you might not know unless you're really into the sport, it's a very European sport. And it's really just come into the United States in the last 20, 25 years. And Doc really is a trailblazer in that regard, because nobody around here had been shooting Sporting Clays until Doc really hit the scene and kind of got the bug and became the guy in the country that everybody went to for Sporting Clays advice. And if you competed against him, most likely you lost, because he was quite a shooter. Sporting Clays, the difference there is Sporting Clays simulates shots that you would have in the field, whether it's a pheasant or a dove or a bouncing rabbit. The clay targets simulate the flight or the pattern of those different birds and different animals. Very, very difficult, high degree difficulty. And the Doc was very proud of the fact that he was the first American to win a medal in international competition. That's kind of a big deal. So he was known on the international circuit as well. One of his greatest joys, and one of the things that I like to tell the most about Doc, is when you talk to random people about the impact he had at sporting events. When he would win a tournament and there'd be a young shooter that he admired, he would take that guy aside and just talk with him, teach him. I mean, he had that kind of a giving spirit where anybody that showed the slightest interest, he was all about helping them get better. And he did that in athletics at Missouri Western as well. He was the optometrist for years. What I like, more than that, what I like to remember is Charlie Burry and Doc held court on the very top row of the court, and I think probably drove Coach Smith a little bit crazy with more advice than he wanted. But they always sat there, and I don't know if there was heckling involved up there, but they always held down that top row, and they, I'm sure, kept notes and had lots to say after the games. But that's how I like to remember Doc the most, is sitting up there at that top row or sitting in a line. And while he was educated as an optometrist and had a doctorate degree, he was also fluent in 10 languages. Most people don't know that. He spoke turkey, he spoke deer, he spoke duck. If you can find any of the guys who shot with him, and I was in line number 2 with him more than once, when there would be ducks flying over, And Doc could call those ducks down. I mean, it was, you could watch him put on the brakes and respond to his duck call. How he did it, I don't know. He liked to refer to himself as a hillbilly. But I've never seen anybody, honestly, I hunted with him for years, and I never saw him miss a shot. Whether it was a duck, quail, he was a shooter, and he could talk the language. So those are the things that I remember most fondly. So on behalf of the family, thank you very much for the honor, Brett. We appreciate it.
2022 St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame winner H.L. Childress. Promoter, kind of an obvious term, but by far the best fit for St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Gus Karras. History in this area, yes, thank you. History in this area has always fascinated me, in which I always tell people, as I said at the start, there's way more history that I don't know than what I know. City Auditorium, whereas I was never there, I realize that is where the police station is now. I have heard numerous story upon story upon story from many people in St. Joe about the Friday and Saturday nights that they spent in a packed City Auditorium, not only watching wrestling and maybe watching the Harlem Globetrotters or anything else that was in the auditorium. So Gus Karras came to St. Joseph from Chillicothe, Missouri in 1933. He began promoting wrestling, the Globetrotters, vaudeville, Broadway shows, and something that I had heard a lot about but hadn't seen very much of. Do we have any Big Two wrestling fans in here? Yeah, a few. And I also understand this, and I do it for you, but I don't know how to do it. There apparently was a wrestling polka during Big Two wrestling, I'm told. Yeah, the song. It was the song. I'm not going to sing it or do it. I would if I knew it, but I don't. I'm not going to try. The names of Sonny Myers and Harley Race were proteges of Karras, and as I mentioned, Big Two wrestling. Always finely dressed, always wearing a hat and smoking a pipe with Mixture Q tobacco, Gus Karras was a St. Joseph institution.
He was probably the most recognized citizen that was in St. Joe.
It's time for Big Two Wrestling. The saying goes, legends never die, and that is appropriate when describing the life and career of professional wrestling promoter Gus Karras.
He was called colorful, remarkable, unassuming, most prominent citizen, and a city booster.
For more than 40 years, from the 1930s until his death in 1976, Karras entertained thousands across the Midwest, especially right here in St. Joseph, with the Carnival, the Globetrotters, and his biggest contribution, professional wrestling.
Without a Gus Karras, it wouldn't be a Harley Race, and again, it's on many different levels.
Sponsored many free matches or charged and donated a portion of the income to the Crippled Children's Society, the Veterans, March of Dimes, the Buchanan County Society, Relief.
Names like Sonny Myers, Happy Humphrey, and of course Harley Race all wrestled for Karras.
He was involved in a really serious car accident. The doctors were going to amputate his leg. Lo and behold, Gus Karras came in. Says, no, you're not. They took him to a different hospital, long period of time, physical therapy and of course, surgeries, etc., etc. Quite some time later, back to wrestling, and that was all thanks to Gus Karras.
St. Joseph became a wrestling mecca for many years, broadcasting live shows, an idea built by Karras himself.
Brackets to the midsection by Lowe. He went to the studio, set up the ring, and had live wrestling matches with an audience in the studio.
It's been almost 50 years since Karras' passing, but without his desire to entertain the crowd, who knows what the pro wrestling scene would look like today, especially in St. Joseph.
To Gus Karras and to his family, thank you guys for the opportunity to give somebody a chance to prove himself, because he did, and I think he represented Gus to the fullest extent.
Someone told my mother that there'll never be another Gus, and I'm sure there won't be.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2023 Florida Hall of Fame member, Gus Harris. And that voice and video clip was his son, Dr. Bill Karras. An opportunity to talk to him a lot over the last 3 months. Absolutely fascinating. Legend. I think that is the best fitting, and that was the designation that Gerald Andrews, the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, bestowed on St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame member, Coach Gary Filbert. Now, I'm not very smart, but I know this. If you have a bust of yourself outside of a building, you are a pretty big deal. And Coach Filbert certainly does at the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. Graduate of Benton High School, basketball player at the University of Missouri, served our country in the Marine Corps, recorded 260 coaching wins at Mexico High School before he came to Missouri Western State University. A very interesting time in history. He was the very first basketball coach at Missouri Western when they became a four-year institution in 1969. He coached in the black and gold over the next 13 seasons. He won 210 games in the black and gold, but it was another black and gold that called his name, Coach Norm Stewart at the University of Missouri. Coach Filbert went coach with Coach Stewart for the next 2 to 3 seasons, and then after that, Coach Filbert joined administration at the University of Missouri, and then got involved with something that I bet a lot of you have competed in this room. He took a struggling program called the Show Me Games, and he turned it into one of the best, most well-run state games programs across the country. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Filbert is a legend indeed.
Founder, pioneer, innovator, and legend. All words that can be used to describe Gary Filbert.
Very hard-nosed coach. Very disciplined. And you had to be in shape to play for him.
He was a very successful coach, very successful person, and a great guy.
From the south side of St. Joseph to the University of Missouri, to then Missouri Western State College, and all across the state.
He wanted to help everybody that he could. And did a great job with it.
Filbert led the Griffins basketball program during the transition from a 2-year to a 4-year institution, winning 210 games and making 3 NAIA tournament appearances.
Just the way he was with his players. I mean, he'd do anything for you. And you knew you had to play hard to play for him. And I thought it was a good opportunity to come to St. Joe and start something at Missouri Western.
His passion for basketball didn't stop there, though. He even joined Hall of Fame coach Norm Stewart's staff down at Mizzou.
He helped start the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. He was very instrumental in that. And helped Gerald Andrews, John Q. Hammonds, and everybody at St. Joe get involved with that.
Filbert's career continued on outside of the coaching ranks. He took a struggling Show Me State games and turned it into one of the biggest state games in the country. You'll know Filbert from one of the many different positions he held. And one thing is for sure, those who worked around him or played for him knew how passionate Filbert was.
I miss him, I really do. And he was more like a father figure to a lot of us. I mean, if you ever had any problem, you just called him on the phone and he'd help you through it.
I'm so happy again to say, welcome to the St. Joe Sports Hall of Fame. That's where you belong.
Ladies and gentlemen, speaking on behalf of the Filbert family tonight, please welcome to the stage Lisa Megan Filbert. But wait, we have a mulligan. My good friends Lydia and Laura are coming up instead. We're going to get a heck of a photo opportunity here, and they are going to tag team this speech. Let's get a photo real quick. Yes, I'm not ready. Yes. At least you're not highlighting my height. I mean, my goodness, a whispering highlight. All right.
Dad would have loved tonight so much. I know he's looking down, smiling at us from heaven. And he really loved St. Joe and Missouri Western. He was a son of St. Joe. Well, my father had many talents, as you've heard. Unquestionably, his most amazing skill was his ability to create a vision and then get others to help him with his dream and get his dream realized. He really would get people to do things that they couldn't even imagine. Our favorite example is that once he was convinced that he was going to be the President of the United States to come to the Missouri State Show Me State Games. And his dad and his friends and his family said, "You're crazy. Guess what?" First President Bush came rolling up to the Hearn Center at Mizzou in the presidential motorcade. He made it happen. So, where did my father learn to get such many remarkable things done? It was right here in St. Joseph at Missouri Western. Again, when you said earlier, he took the head coaching job here. The program was nothing more than just an idea. There were no basketball facilities, including a gym, no offices, no weight room, nothing. The only structure was a small trailer in a muddy field. The players, and possibly some of his children, ate at the McDonald's on the Belt and the TikTok Cafe because they gave free food. The only thing the program had was a mascot, the Griffin. And at that time, nobody even actually knew what a Griffin was. But my dad would not be deterred. He had a dream and a plan, and that he made it happen by convincing others to buy in and join him on his journey. He convinced extremely talented players, several who became All-American and professionals, to become Griffins. He also brought in really good coaches who he paid almost nothing to join his staff. Several of those coaches became Hall of Famers themselves. And he got the town he loved so much to get behind the support of Missouri Western and the Golden Griffin basketball team. The result was that just a couple of years, Missouri Western was one of the best small college basketball teams in the country. Playing in front of crowds, nationally ranked, and even beating NCAA Division I teams. My dad went on to repeat the kind of success he had at Mo West throughout the rest of his life. I know my dad is so proud of the role he played in helping Missouri Western become what it is today.
This is from Lisa, who went to college at Missouri Western and was a cheerleader when Dad was a basketball coach. Dad was profoundly proud of being from St. Joe, and he would always tell us the importance of being able to live here. Whether it was the South End, downtown, Krug Park, or Lover's Lane, he wanted us to know its history and why it was special. He was honored to have had a small but instrumental part in the vision of building Missouri Western to the sports and academic success it is today. He was proud to be here before Missouri Western campus trees or buildings were even in place. His love of St. Joe was grounded in his very character. This is from the twins, Brian and Brent. If you ever were there, you know who I'm talking about. They attended every Missouri Western game and entertained the fans with their efforts to shoot baskets, they were this tall, during halftime. Dad was an amazing and highly accomplished coach, as we all know, and here are some of the things that maybe you don't know about our dad that was incredible, and that he was pretty amazing in a number of things that we're talking about. For example, he was a crazy good diver and could put on exhibitions off the high dive at Krug Park Public Pool when he managed it in the early 70s, which the whole staff would stand and watch him do Olympic-style dives on the high dive almost every morning, and Dave Messia and Rich Drake can attest to that. He was great at tennis and won a ton of city tennis championships in St. Joe, and the only defeat that didn't make him furious was when his twins started defeating him when they were only 12 years old. He was good at golf, ping pong, pool, you name it, anything that had hand-eye coordination, he was amazing at it. He could throw a knuckleball that was almost impossible to catch because it moved all over the place until he was in his 40s. He was playing national level basketball at the All-American level until his late 70s, winning tournaments all over the country. He won numerous national free throw competitions until the state age. This is what Preston wanted to tell you. Good evening, sports fans, as Dad used to say. That was back in his days as a broadcaster, way before ESPN and most talk radio. He had a little show every Sunday night where he'd talk about the local teams and cheer the townsfolk on. There wasn't a lot of music in his shows, though one night he did gather all of us together, and our mother had us gathered together so he could dedicate Puff the Magic Dragon to his daughters. That was a great choice for the girls, but not for Dad. He loved music and sang all the time. And he was more of a country western kind of guy. Some Johnny Cash, a little George Jones, lots of Hank Williams, and on long car trips from eastern Missouri back to visit the family here in St. Joe, we sang songs like, "Hey, good looking," all the time. Sadly, he had to dub us, his children, the monotones. Whatever. His other love was operatic arias. I don't know how many of his athletes know this, but their coach would swoon for a good recording of Madame Butterfly. At any rate, Dad was a well-rounded man with lots of interests, and he raised his family to be alert and aware of all the possibilities that life had to offer, from a good two-handed set shot to a brilliant diva. And then from me, of course, we heard many of Dad's stories about how he and his friends liked to pull pranks in the South End. And we have proof of that from his sister and his brother, who are here in the audience, Margaret Ann and his brother Dick. They can attest to that. They both attended almost every game when Dad was coaching here. We heard way too many times how Dad's high school football team at Benton went to the Peanut Bowl, that he played basketball there for Pop Springer, and why he left Mizzou for the U.S. Marine Corps after his freshman year, because he wasn't playing well enough to start. How he became known in the Marine Corps as Hook Filbert and played baseball for the Marines. He was the hard-driving, winningest coach at Mexico, Missouri because, and I quote him when he said, "It wasn't that hard. He just saw potential in people that they didn't see in themselves." We enjoyed all the summers when Dad joined Bob Vanetta setting up basketball camps at the Missouri Military Academy in Mexico, Missouri, taught swimming lessons and Red Cross and CPR to all the kids our age, and managed pools like Hyde Park in the South End. And even though Dad was terrible with home repairs, because, as his wife Glenda said, the only thing that fit in his hand was a basketball, a baseball, or a tennis ball. We will always admire Dad for his unique abilities to provide for us by teaching, coaching, running radio programs, operating private and public swimming pools like Krug Park, when he first brought us to live here in this beautiful city. Mizzou basketball coach Norm Stewart said this about Gary Filbert. He was like Tom Sawyer, getting everyone to whitewash the family fence and made them feel like they were getting better side of the deal.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Lydia and Laura, 2022 St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame member, Coach Gary Filbert. Innovator. I think that's a proper term for Bill McKinney. Bill McKinney was an innovator, community leader, and champion to recreational activities. You know, I knew Bill as the Director of Parks and Recreation here in St. Joseph, Missouri for many years. Probably what I should have known about Bill that I learned more about was Bill was a darn good athlete as well. 3 sports star growing up in Lafayette High School. Then on a football scholarship at the University of Missouri. Came back to coach at Plattsburgh High School. He went into sporting goods. Ran a very successful business for 20 years. Bill became the interim director of the St. Joseph Parks and Recreation Department. That interim did not last long. He became the permanent director for many, many years. And odds are, ladies and gentlemen, Bill probably either built, renovated, consulted, or frankly gave input on many of the facilities here in St. Joseph that you've spent a number of days of your life. Civic Arena, Bill Welch Stadium, Heritage Park Softball Complex, or should I say the Bill McKinney Softball Complex. Bill had a passion for many sports. Softball was right near the top of the list. He is a member of the Missouri ASA Hall of Fame. Bill McKinney was an innovator.
Bill McKinney's impact on his hometown can be felt across the city.
Bill kind of covered it all. He covered just about every aspect of sports in St. Joseph.
From Bill Welch Stadium to the Missouri Theater, Civic Arena, the Aquatic Park, Heritage Park, Remington Nature Center, McKinney's leadership guided the renovation and creation of a lot of opportunities for all ages.
Bill was pretty versatile. He enjoyed a lot of different things. He wanted to provide services for a huge variety of people. And I think for the time he was Parks Director, with the funding that was available and the commitment that was being made by the community, I think he was able to accomplish a lot of what he wanted to do.
I think the city needed it. I think they've used it well. I think we've run a lot of tournaments into St. Joseph, which helps everybody.
His passion for his hometown started at a young age. A three-sport athlete at Lafayette, turning it into being a two-way player at Missouri, returning to the area to coach Plattsburgh and Lafayette, before even opening up a sporting goods business before being named the Parks and Rec Director. Bill McKinney did it all in St. Joseph.
You talk to people in my dad's and mom's generation, and they remembered his athletic abilities. And when you were around Bill, in public, he was addressed in multiple ways, and a lot of people addressed him as coach.
You guys absolutely want to see the town grow and prosper and do better.
You'll feel and see McKinney's impact on St. Joseph in just about every corner of town. Not because it was about him, but because he wanted to provide for his community.
Everything that Bill did as a community leader and an athlete, that he loved St. Joe.
Ladies and gentlemen, speaking on behalf tonight of the Bill McKinney family, I'd like to welcome his stepson, Mr. Paul Warren.
Bill McKinney was known in a lot of different ways to different people throughout his life. Like the video said, he was known as an athlete, as a teacher and a coach, as a business leader, and as a civic leader and innovator. Everyone who knew Bill, though, knew that he loved sports and he loved this town. Bill's passion for sports and for St. Joe grew at a very early age, and he always credited living on the north side of St. Joe, growing up on a tenement house on West Isabel, as kind of developing that passion and toughness as he got a job at the old Getz Field when he was about 9 years old. Told me the scariest thing about working there was when he had to run home at night. And, to get from Getz back up to Isabel Street, he said you kind of have to run through the shadows because if some people saw you, they might steal all the money, the whole quarter that he had made that day. From Getz, he developed a passion at Lafayette. Bill was a tremendous athlete at Lafayette High School. Letterman in 3 sports for multiple years, football, basketball, averaging over 20 points a game back when they did score maybe in the 30s. He won the hurdles championship also, but he would tell me how he would unlock the windows and to make sure that he could sneak into Lafayette so he could shoot baskets. He also loved getting sports because they had the outdoor bathroom at his house, and so he got to take warm showers at Lafayette. So that was one of the best things. He always credited Frank Baker for helping him get to Mizzou. Coach showed up that was so large that it fit in their house, could barely fit in the chair when he recruited Bill. And Bill was a tough North End kid, and maybe didn't have the greatest grades at the time, but Frank Baker took him down to Mizzou for his recruiting visits. And God willing, Bill was able to get all the entrance exams passed and everything, and he got into Mizzou, which really changed his life. It was his sophomore year that Bill in spring ball was able to make a huge play on a senior, an outside linebacker that really caught the eye of Don Farrow, the legendary coach at Mizzou. And Bill went on to start for 3 seasons, both ways, both sides of the football, at tight end and defensive end. One of his favorite accomplishments he always told me was he sacked Lynn Dawson when they played Purdue in 1956. Mizzou showed him what sports could do, and it changed his life, and it showed him, it was his way out. When he got out of Mizzou, he became the head football and track coach at Plattsburgh for 2 years, really enjoyed that. Then he came back to his alma mater at Lafayette to become head football and track coach. Bill was an innovator all times for this. I've talked to several people. David Mejia, who credited him for helping them when they beat Benton. He went to the 4-4 defense, one of the first people to do that. Bill developed the first high school weight room in St. Joe. He was always thinking ahead. He was always one step ahead. And that's why in 1968 he had another desire, and that was to open his own business. He'd always wanted to do that, so he purchased Spectre Sports and then turned that into Spartan Sporting Goods. And that was around for almost 20 years. And I love the stories that I would get from people who had dads who had coached with Bill or knew him really well, and he's like, we would go into Spartans, and Mr. McKinney would look at us and say, what do you need? And they'd say, go get it, and we just give it to him for free. And he just absolutely loved that aspect of just helping young people get into sports. After Spartans closed, and really to kind of backtrack, Bill did, when we talk about Bill being a fantastic athlete, the quote with Bill at Lafayette in the Oak says, greater athletes may be born, but we doubt it. He continually itched that competitive, he scratched that competitive itch throughout his life. Whether it was fast pitch softball, Mutt Nagel, the legendary umpire, told me that Bill was probably top 3 fast pitch pitcher in St. Joe throughout his career. He loved racquetball. He was a city doubles champion, but if you played with Bill, or had played, it took like an hour for him to get his ankle braces on. He'd go in the sauna, and I would go out there as a young kid, and he would run me back and forth into the walls everywhere, and just it was horrible to play against him. Steph Shanti drove Steph crazy. Everybody, Mike Halloran, it drove us crazy to play with Bill in that. In 1986, Bill also resurrected Dana football in St. Joe and set up a Champions Series with Omaha. It really kind of he helped move the fields to the central location when they were on Mississippi 28. And I was telling a story about how competitive my stepfather was. One year, he decided he was upset that I was playing on a better team than what he thought the other coach had gotten, kind of a raw deal. So he jumped over and told me that at dinner that night, I'm going to go coach this team. I said, sweet, I'll join you. No, you won't. We're going to take that team and we're going to kick your butt. And they did twice. That's the stepfather that I got to live with. How many can say that their dad coached against them? In 1985-86, Bill became the interim parks director for St. Joe, and eventually that was lifted. Bill's main concern was to set out to better St. Joe always. His vision, his passion for sports for all ages. And Bill had his hands in everything with parks. He revamped all of it. It was in dire need of that. He strategically placed brilliant people, some of them in this audience tonight. He put people that shared his vision, and he put them in those key positions that they could help get things done. He also stretched the taxpayer's dollar all he could, even if it angered some union people and things like that. Bill would make sure that he got the most for the people of St. Joe. He set up volunteer groups, Friends of the Parks. He would convince trusts, he would convince business owners, people to donate their money, their time, their artifacts. He worked late hours. My mom will attest to you that there were those nights he's at the kitchen. I might wake up in the middle of the night and want to get a drink of water, and there he is at 2 in the morning working. And constantly honing that budget to make sure that all things would work. And the man did it with impeccable integrity and honesty. He even took less money in '87 to become the park director, just so he could show St. Joe the good faith how much he cared. The things that he accomplished in the Parks Department that benefited everyone would be the Remington Nature Center, St. Joseph Rec Center, basketball courts at Bodie Ice Arena, St. Joseph Aquatic Park, Heritage Park, the hike and bike trail, the creation of the central office at 17th and Grand. Mike Halloran, who was his co-worker at the time of Bill's death, said, his fingerprints, his input, and his passion are everywhere in St. Joseph. Said Mike Halloran, a co-worker for more than 2 decades, up and down, east and west, north and south. You can see it from the hike and bike trail. All the things he touched and the influence he had and what we needed to do and spend the funds available. In addition to what was created during Bill's tenure as park director, he also improved the following facilities: Missouri Theater, Phillips Stadium, Fairview Clubhouse, Bartlett Park, and Bartlett Baseball Field, Bodie Ice Arena, Civic Arena, Senior Center, Sacred Hills, and his favorite, Holiday Park. Bill's commitment and contribution to this community cannot be overstated, Parks Director Chuck Kemp said. His impact will show for decades, and I feel like that will go overshadowed, but he's leaving behind a tremendous legacy. Bill's legacy was cemented in 2016 when Heritage Park was renamed for Bill McCain. Personally, I think that, in our family, you always saw Bill's competitive side. We would have the McCain family Olympics at Christmas, and he did not win, and he was very angry. I can remember a go-kart race that went bad at the Ozarks, and he came in last, and that go-kart had won when it was before, so he beat all of us to get to it, and then it got last. He wouldn't speak to us for a while. Poor Matt Tabor. I have to talk about the Tabor family. The Tabors were like his other children. He'd make Matt Tabor catch against that cat, and Matt was about 12, and he sent him against there to catch his softball because he wanted to go out and pitch all the time, and he would just throw heat to him, and there he would be, catching against the wall. But he was just so fun. That's what we've always talked about with Bill. He was such a fun individual to be around. But I think of all of his accomplishments, Bill's faith and family were his most important. And he's got two of his daughters here tonight, Kelly and Kim, and Chrissy couldn't make it. My sister's in California, and he's got his grandson Casey here tonight, his wife Sam. But that was his most important thing, was his faith and family. But the person who always kept him grounded, who was right there through it all, who made sure everything kept in order, was my mom. And I think that's one thing that you see a lot is the people that go into this, they have great people behind them. And Bill did. He had a wonderful support person in my mother. And I think that you see a lot of it, everyone going in tonight, they were great people before anything else. They were good people, and they served others. And that was one of the things that really stood out to me always with Bill, was he always wanted to serve this town and serve this community. My mom and the rest of the McKinney family, we would like to thank the St. Joseph Sports Commission. We would like to thank Chuck Kemp from the St. Joseph Parks and Recreation Department for this prestigious honor and for sponsoring Bill. He would be extremely proud. Thank you very much.
Bill McCain. You know where I'm going with this, don't you, Janet? Rock star. Some of you were probably saying, rock star. Janet Clark Moody. Janet Clark Moody is a rock star, ladies and gentlemen. I first met Janet Clark Moody. She was the physical education teacher for my son and daughter at Oak Grove Elementary School. My son came home from school one day, and I said, "What are you learning in school, son? What are you doing in PE?" He goes, "We're learning basketball." And I said, "You know what? Your teacher's the best basketball player in that school. In fact, your teacher might be the best basketball player still in the city." Check out this, ladies and gentlemen. Janet Clark Moody, graduate of Lafayette High School. Traded the green and white end of Lafayette for the green and white of Northwest Missouri State University. Janet only became Northwest Missouri State's all-time leading scorer. In fact, she's the 6th all-time leading scorer in MIAA history. She is still the all-time leading three-point percentage shooter in Northwest Missouri State history. And I believe her 2,200 points become even that much more fascinating because her first year at Northwest, there still wasn't a three-point line. So think about that. Back then, how many more points Janet would have scored. Janet Clark Moody, you are a rock star.
When you come from a basketball family, the odds are in your favor that you're going to love the game. For Janet Clark Moody, she ended up being elite on the court.
As a family, we're always together. If I was beating her, she would just step up even more. And I'd beat her. But she would get so mad. It was fun. And that's what made her so great. She was just so competitive.
She played all 4 years at Lafayette, earning numerous accolades, including being named the first ever Miss Show Me State basketball player for senior season. But her story doesn't stop there.
A lot of times she was, the first one in the gym and the last one to leave. She was always trying to get better. And she led us both, really on and off the court. And the younger kids, she started for me since she was a freshman. And the younger players looked up to her as well as her own teammates.
To this day, Moody is the only Northwest Missouri State women's basketball player to score 2,000 points in their career. One of the best ever in the MIAA. averaging more than 20 points per game in her last 3 seasons in Maryville, eventually being inducted into the MIAA Hall of Fame, the M Club Hall of Fame, and her jersey being retired by Northwest.
Probably had the purest jump shot of anybody I've ever seen, male or female, coming through the program. It was just fundamentally so sound, and she could hit it from about anywhere on the floor, and that's one thing that stands out. Another thing, too, you think of all the points that she scored in her career, but she still had over 500 rebounds, and was a very good defensive player, too, that I think a lot of people forget about. But she was just as well-rounded a player that came through the program as anybody I've ever seen.
In every way, Moody earned the right to be selfish or boastful on the court. She was just that good of a player. But that wasn't her. It was about the team and wanting to make the team better. That's who she was and continues to be.
Nicest person. I mean, she does anything for anybody. But like I said, she's also very competitive. Wasn't really worried about the individual honors. Puts the team first. And, always appreciate kids like that.
2022 St. Joseph Warriors Janet Clark Moody.
No long shots till I could shoot with the correct form, and boy was I stubborn. I kept telling him I'm making baskets with my elbow out, but eventually he won. Thank goodness I listened to him. I remember going to games to watch my dad coach at the Municipal Auditorium. It would be standing room only, and everyone in town would show up. I tried to return the favor and give him coaching advice. He didn't listen to me. I guess I know where I get my stubbornness from. I used to go every Saturday to the gym with my dad to get more practice in. For me, being in the gym was great fun, playing horse with my dad's players. My family used to play basketball games to see who would do the dishes. My sister and I ganged up on my brother to make him lose. It was fun to have friendly competitions. My brother and I played basketball daily outside. I used to get mad at him for blocking my shot and would go inside and cry to my mom. She would say, "It's making you better, get back out there." I was surrounded by great coaches at Lafayette High School, including my dad. I was fortunate to get a scholarship to Northwest Missouri State, which again, I was surrounded by great coaches and teammates. I was lucky enough to have my jerseys retired at Lafayette and Northwest. All of this would not have happened without two special people in my life. They attended every game I played. I just want to say thank you to my parents who are here tonight and who have always supported me. I couldn't have received all my accomplishments without them. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I'm very blessed to have wonderful parents.
2022 St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Famer Janet Clark Moody. Groundbreaking. St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame member Michael Hill's career, in my mind and many's, was groundbreaking. Folks, Michael has portrayed in my mind what I feel like many St. Joseph residents feel like is the ideal sports career path of an athlete here in St. Joseph. Graduate of Central High School. Michael had a lot of options to go play college football in Central. He chose to stay right here at Missouri Western State University. He came to Missouri Western at a very unique time because Michael, I think, was a part of the last class to play in what I would consider the old Spratt Stadium and old facilities. But he also helped usher in a new era of Missouri Western football with new facilities, with the creation of the Griffin Indoor Sports Complex. Michael had an outstanding career at Missouri Western. The 2012 season arguably will go down as one of the best ever of any Griffin football player in university history. Michael was the all-time leading rusher at Missouri Western State University. He helped lead the best Griffin football team in school history, 12-2, ironically enough, going into Griffin Hall of Fame a little bit later this season. Michael, the all-time leading rusher in Western history. He was the 2012 MIAA Offensive MVP. He was named an All-American by 3 different outlets. He was a finalist for the Harlan Hill Award. That is Division II's version of the Heisman Trophy. Michael took his talents from Missouri Western. He played for 4 years in the NFL. He played for teams such as the Green Bay Packers, who Michael reminded me, Brett, they play tonight. Make sure I get home and have an opportunity to watch them play. Michael, working on that. But ladies and gentlemen, Michael Hill was a ground.
You're not humble, you're not hungry, and Michael was always hungry for more.
All-city, all-state running back at Central High School.
That young man came in with passion and desire and developed a love for football.
Michael Hill turned his hard work and dedication into one of the best college careers at Missouri Western.
I thought he was going to be a great player, surprise everybody. The level of where he was, no, I wouldn't count on that. Yeah, that was a tremendous football player.
Hill burst onto the scene his sophomore year at Central, playing for legendary head coach Tony Duke.
I think the legacy of Michael at Central is one of the best running backs that's ever played there. I mean, there's been some dandies that played at Central for a long time.
He had great perspective. He had love. He had passion. He was a phenomenal teammate. He was an encourager, a student of the game of football, but most importantly, just a loving, caring human being.
And his passion for football and love for his city kept the dynamic running back in town.
Obviously, great strength and balance, just a great human being. Intelligence level was really high, and just toughness and physicality and all that stuff just made him a tremendous running back. We could see early.
A runner-up finish for the Harlan Hill, the honor for best player in Division II, and an All-American, earned his chances at the NFL, going undrafted and proving his worth.
Not a fun business for a lot of people. I mean, it is day to day. You got to have some confidence in yourself, but you also have to have a great perspective. And he was able to stay in the league and have success.
An unbelievable running back in high school and college here in St. Joseph. Michael Hill will be remembered for his accolades, but also, greater than that, the person he is.
Tommy's such a good human being and a great example for everybody in our community, regardless of the issues that we face on a daily basis, and so he is a presence.
His legacy still be written. You know, he's still a young dude, and it'll be cool to see what he does with his life going forward and how he impacts other people.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2022 State Representative Michael Hill.
All right, forgive me, I'm parched right now. I could use a glass of water, but it's an honor to first, be inducted and be in this class, to hear the achievements of others that are involved with this class and contributions that they've done in life. It's an honor for myself. I played the game of football for 17 years, and that started whenever I was in 3rd grade. And it's already been 7 years since I've been out and been able to put on the pads, but as much as I'd like to put on the pads again and play another game, I know it'll never happen. But I know that I'll be able to carry a couple things that I gained along the way. The first thing is definitely the relationships, which is most important, and the lessons, from coaches to teammates, other players, administrators, supporters, family, friends, the list goes on. And those people are the ones that shaped and molded me as a player then, and as the person that I am now. And most of them don't even know how important their role. All right, let's try that again. They don't understand the role that they've had in my life. A lot of them I see in here today, and I could get into a lot of stories and talk for hours, but I know you guys want to get home too, and I want to see the Packers like the other thing was the memories, the good and the bad, the wins and the losses. the things I'll be able to tell my sons. And I can't even talk about coaches, they're my family, but thank you guys. I'll just cut it off there.
2022 St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame member Michael Hill. Humble. George Hayward is about as humble of a guy as I've ever met. In fact, when I called George in June, I said, George, it is an honor to tell you you're going to be a member of the St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame. And he promptly responded back to me, you got the wrong guy. No, George, we have the right guy. Hayward is Central High School Missouri Western graduate, played football for both institutions. And knowing he wanted to stay connected to the game, George worked his way up the ladder, beginning with Vanderbilt, Pop Warner, Mid-America Intercollegiate Athletics Association, the Heart of America Conference, on up to the Big 8 Conference. Still is an honor to work bowl games, but in those days there weren't a bowl game for every school across the country, and it was a big-time honor to work bowl games, and George worked bowl games. But George also worked NFL games for 25 seasons. In fact, those 25 seasons spanned 425 games as a head linesman. He reached the pinnacle of his craft working Super Bowl 41. George Hayward is humble, one of the best ever to do it.
Whether it was off the field, kind of having a great time, or once we get on the field, he was all business.
From playing the game to officiating at the highest level of football, George Hayward has done it all.
I actually worked his first game with him in the NFL. We flew over to Barcelona together to work one of the American Bowls between San Francisco and Pittsburgh.
After playing football at Central High School and Missouri Western, Hayward found his way to stay in the sport, officiating Pop Warner games, middle and high school and college, to eventually earning his stripes in the National Football League.
That's the type of accomplishment. He worked his way through it at every level, and he was exceptional at every level. That's why he was allowed to go ahead and make it to the top of the NFL for over 25 years.
Hayward has officiated some big-time games, including Super Bowl 41.
Welcome back to CBS's coverage of Super Bowl 41. It's our 16th Super Bowl.
And even with all the success, Hayward, a hard worker, made sure to help others cutting their own teeth to become an official.
As George succeeded, he always helped those officials who were working their way up. And until this day, he still assists officials. He still goes to high school games and gives them comments. When we go out to Missouri Western, the first thing we talk about is which crew is working and who's going to be working the game. And several times we would go down to the locker room and see officials that we worked with or George worked with.
From Andy Reid to Mike Tomlin, Hayward's had a lot of coaches in his ear over the years, but it's all been a part of a memorable career.
The officials are very unique individuals that work these games, and they're very professional, and they're so dedicated to their work. And I just feel so pleased that George has had this opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2022 St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Famer George Hayward.
It's quite an honor. I had so much help along the way. I grew up in St. Joe, lived here all my life, and got a few notes here to write down and tell everybody about. Gosh, I'm kind of just overwhelmed. If I stood up here and told you all the people that helped me get to where I am, I'd be up here for a day and a half. People like Mel Clark, Bill Lowe, Jake Leinbach, Gary Hazelrig, Pat Conway, believe it or not, The family, the Roth family, Bob, Susan, J.R., George Roth, and the Lawson family, Norton family of Lisa and Bob. Always were there for me, always to support me through hard times and get me over it. They were always true friends to me. And I'll tell you what, they're probably short for words. I figured out, I sat down the other day thinking about this in Army that I probably didn't deserve it. And I thought back and did the math. It started in 7th grade and went from 7th grade up to when I retired in 06. It's something like 54 years of football that I've been involved with for that long. And that probably answers the reason why I've been single, too. I'll leave you with this one that I always use as the end whenever I'm talking to a group. There was a famous football player, and I'm pretty sure he's still around, played for the Kansas City Chiefs. His name was Fred Arbanis. Great player, Super Bowls, tight end, played at Michigan State. And he got in a barroom brawl. The story is one night and lost the sight in his left eye. And they interviewed him, they talked to him, he played like that back then. They didn't have cages or masks like they have today to protect him. And some sports writer said, Fred, what are you going to do if during the game you get poked in the other eye and lose your eyesight? He thought for a minute, he said, I'll just become an official.
St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame member George Hayward. Iconic. Dennis Sneeden has been a part of some of the most iconic sports moments in our city's history. Graduated Benton High School, Missouri Western. Sneeden began his coaching role in 1978, taking the Wesley Weightlifters from a small club and turning them into not only a national power, but a world power. In coaching numerous local athletes, he put St. Joseph on the world stage, training local Olympians Wes Barnett and Pete Kelly in the early days. Sneeden himself joined the Olympic ranks as an assistant coach in the Atlanta Games in '96 and became the head coach in Beijing in 2008. Speaking of those '96 Atlanta Games, the torch run he, Barnett, and Kelly led through St. Joseph is still a highly iconic moment in our city's history. Working his way all the way up to Director of USA Weightlifting and President of the governing body, yes, ladies and gentlemen, Dennis Sneeden is iconic.
Taking a small club of weightlifters and turning it into a world power. That's what Dennis Sneeden did from the south side of St. Joseph.
Dennis was, at the time, just brought you in, got you going. He was a motivator too. He really helped you have fun with what you're doing.
You can use the word iconic when you think about the Wesley Weightlifter and USA Weightlifting coach, because Sneeden's been growing and building the sport for more than 40 years.
Across the USA in weightlifting, the sport, they love how he just brings so many kids and numbers to the sport.
Your goal was never to put kids on the Olympic team. We didn't even know what the Olympic team was when we first started. Your goal was always to make better citizens. That was it.
He coached 2 U.S. Olympians, Wes Barnett and Pete Kelly.
He'd come out for the camps, Colorado Springs. He brought Rambo 2. He's like, we're gonna watch Rambo 2. I said, all right. We're fighting the Russians, and we're going to the Olympics, and we're gonna battle with the Russians. So.
Coaching the 1996 Atlanta Games, bringing the Olympic torch through St. Joseph.
Without Dennis starting down here at the Wesley Center back in the 70s, a program like that, you know, it's hard to imagine I'd even come here.
Sneeden's passion for weightlifting led him to becoming the 2008 Women's Olympic Weightlifting Team Coach too.
Well, it's a house and a bus on my shoulders.
Even while serving as the interim director for USA Weightlifting and 7 years as the national governing body's president, Sneeden always made sure to brag about his hometown.
You have been such a pillar in this community and such an impactful person on the youth of St. Joe. I could not be more proud of you. Many of your accomplishments are not broadcasted purposely because you are the most selfless person I've ever met.
You can talk to kids until you are blue in the face, and sometimes the message just doesn't sink in. That's because kids don't follow your advice, they follow your example. And I want to thank you for being such a great example for me and the thousands of other kids whose lives you've influenced over the years.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2022 Central Florida Sports Hall of Fame Steve Riley.
Thank you for the honor, especially with the people that are being nominated tonight. It's an honor to even be up here. You know, I wrote down some stuff to talk about. I feel like Dick Vermeil. I got to thank 500 people. I gave up today. I said, I can't name her. I'd like to forget somebody. I appreciate the Brett and especially Marcy Bennett. We have a history together. Anything that Marcy gets involved in terms of gold. If you're tired of sitting, you know, my butt was sore sitting. I'm going to stand up for a second or just go ahead. You're not going to hurt my feelings. You know, how about those Chiefs? You know, they signed a new player this summer named Dunlap. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, that's what the doctor said to me the other day. He goes, you're coming up with Dunlap's disease. And I said, well, what's that? He said, that's when your belly Dunlaps over your belt. Okay, seriously, I really appreciate being nominated. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who deserve it more than I do. But moving on here, I'd like to thank my family. First of all, my wife, Becky, she's sitting somewhere over here. And Becky Sneeden, I'll tell you what, I get all the credit for the things that have happened, but she does most of the work. So almost the perfect relationship. I'll tell you, we hosted the Olympic trials in '96 at the Civic Arena. We sold 12,000 tickets, and it only holds about 8,000 people. And my wife worked so hard, her hair was falling out. She'll tell you those stories. It was on ESPN, I think, 10 times, and it was voted the second best event of all the Olympic trials. Only Michael Johnson in that track and field world record beat out weightlifting, but we beat gymnastics, women's gymnastics, swimming, and all the other events. I was very proud of that, and mainly because Wes and Pete, you know, Wes brought the house down. Okay, moving on here, I want to thank InterServe for allowing me to work, to do my job, and to pursue my coaching. We've had many leaders. I've been there 45 years, if you can believe that. Let's see, who do I got here? Okay. Joyce Ray Patterson was the first one, then Kim Dover-Spike. These are the CEOs of InterServe. Wally Bloss, and then Dave Berger, who's here, I believe. He's a hero of mine. Dave Hallery, and then now we've got Bridget Supple as the executive director. Also, Randy Sharp is here tonight. He's a big boss and he's a big helper. So, you know, when I first started hanging out at the Wesley Center, my dad told me not to, but I did it anyway. It's the only place I could go or find a good basketball game. Concrete floor. And a guy named Buddy Davis asked me to come work for him after my senior year. And I'm like, man, Buddy, I don't know. He said, oh, you'll be okay. I said, I don't know, buddy. It's pretty rough down here. Well, the first day, Buddy left. He wasn't there at night. So I was down there, and there was a fight broke out in the gym. It was a straight razor fight between two guys. They're killing each other. I went out to call. I called the police. Back then, they didn't have 911. You had to call them on the phone. Well, the phone got pulled out of the wall. So I ran out, got in my car. I had a Gremlin car, a little yellow Gremlin. They broke the windshield, broke my antenna. And I went home. My dad said, "What the hell happened to you?" My dad was outside. And I said, "Well, Dad, I was down there at the Wesley house." He said, "I told you, boy, you knew." I said, "Man, I'll tell you what, we're going to straighten that out tomorrow." I took the money they paid me and paid a police officer to come in. Gave him all the money. I made about $2.60 an hour. And I gave it to the police officer, and I made a rule: if you wasn't in school and you don't work, you're not coming in here. And I haven't had any problems since. So, like I said, my family's been so supportive. My daughter's here, Heather Marie Seaver now. Her husband Tyler's sitting there, and my grandson Creed, he lifted in a meeting when he was about 2 years old. It was on the video there, that was him. And then my newest addition to the family is Zealand, and she's only 1 year old. So I'm sure I'm going to be coaching them at some point. And my son Trent, he's out of, well, he was in Baltimore, Maryland as a security officer, but I'm not sure what state he's in Delaware now. Okay. All right. I coached him too. He was a national champion. I got so many people here. I want to just take a second to thank all the parents and volunteers who've helped my program over there. There's so many of them. I tried to list them all today. It was impossible. It was just crazy. So everybody has most of them are South End, but a lot of them are not South End. I got a lot of lifters that are outside of the South End, and their parents are beautiful people. One in particular was Ronnie Whaler. He passed away. What was it like? Last? Well, anyway, let me get to the athletes who put me here. I mean, it's easy for somebody to take credit, but you got to have those racehorses to get you there. And of course, Wes and Pete are both here. They're both Olympians. Wes is a 2-time Olympian. And then another lifter that came up, Marissa Klingsize. I don't know if you ever heard of her. She won the Olympic trials twice, was an alternate in Rio de Janeiro. She made 2 Olympic teams, and they didn't let her lift. It got real political, but she earned it by lifting the most weight. And it's very disappointing for her. She just did a mission for her Mormon mission, and has come back now. So hopefully she'll get back in the gym. She's only 27. I think she could still make a team. But I've been blessed to coach many athletes, and I've been to every corner of this planet. Wes and Pete can tell you, we've been every continent, every little gym in South America, North America, all over the world. There's no place like St. Joe. I can't wait to do it. I'll just cut it off because we've been here too long. I'm not finished coaching yet. I'm still going. We got a meeting at Wesley Center at the new Interserve, by the way, October 15th. You're not doing anything, come down and check it out. But other than that, thank you very much, and I'm honored to be here, believe me.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2022 St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame member, Dennis Sneathen. Toughness. I think a lot of things when I think about Tom Smith, but I think toughness is the word that describes him the most. Proud to say I've probably seen as many of Coach Smith's games at Missouri Western as anybody in this room. That goes all the way back to 1988. I was 10 years old. I remember that season. That season was significant for a number of reasons. Number one, that was the first season, or the last season rather, the Griffins were an NAIA member. I remember vividly he took the microphone at the end of that season after I don't remember the opponent that you beat, Park University, to win the District 16 championship, and he said, I want everybody back here next season, and I want it rocking. Think about what they did the next season. NCAA Division II member for the first time. They won the MIAA regular season championship, won the MIAA conference championship, and advanced to the NCAA tournament for obviously the first time in school history. Only 4 teams made the tournament in those days. For the next 25 seasons at Missouri Western, he made the NWSU Fieldhouse the place to be on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturday nights, and other nights in between when the Griffins were playing. Ladies and gentlemen, 448 Griffin victories later, 618 wins in all later. Tom Smith, toughness.
Tom Smith was Missouri Western basketball through my ages.
For 25 years, Tom Smith roamed the Missouri Western sidelines.
Fans, offensive foul, a little brash, comical. I mean, you know, Tom had a way of being able to communicate on a different level to his players.
With 448 wins, Smith owns the most victories in Missouri Western history, winning 5 MIAA regular season titles, 5 conference tournament titles, and making 11 NCAA tournament appearances.
I'm grateful for the confidence you had in me to play college basketball. Not that you had many options with only 8 players on the roster. You tried to teach us a bunch of plays and coach us on how to play the game. You encouraged us to maximize our strengths, and you pushed us to reach our full potential.
Throughout his entire coaching career, 36 seasons in all, 618 career wins, multi-time Hall of Famer, and even the Missouri Western Court being named in Tom Smith's honor.
I still was speechless. I just didn't know what to say. It just, yeah, it was a total surprise.
But his impression on hundreds of basketball players throughout his career might be the biggest thing he did. The wins come and go, but it's Smith's relationships with his players that survives the passage of time.
I wouldn't be where I am today without him. And what he's meant not only to me, but the other coaches in this area. I mean, obviously you've had Darren Williams, Brett Goodwin, and Neil Hug, and guys like Mike Bennett that are out there coaching now. And he just impacted the game of basketball in this area.
Tom was a player's coach. I mean, he allowed his players to go out and just play the game. A friend, mentor, part of the reason why I got into coaching.
You demonstrated on how hard work, perseverance, and faith are keys to success, both on and off the court. And I've tried to teach these characteristics to all the players that I've coached over the past 25 years. Thank you, Coach, and congratulations on your induction to the Hall of Fame.
2022 St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame member Tom Smith.
Sound like it's on?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I had something. I just realized looking at the film and it just made me realize just how good I was. When I saw Neil Brooks' picture up there and realized I won 19 games with him. Say something else, Greg. Okay? Doc Childress never criticized me. Charlie will attest to it. They sat up there, they may have criticized me up there, but they never criticized me to my face. And I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to be inducted into this Hall of Fame. But St. Joe Hall of Fame committee, of course, Patsy's the chairman, so you know. Wasn't that hard, no. As long as I'm good at home, then I'm all right. I've got a couple more Hall of Fames I can get in there maybe. So I do it right. I want to thank my family for being here. Even a couple grandkids that came from Springfield and Columbia just to be here and go back to the school and their jobs. And daughter from Kansas City. I don't have an extended family. I have a family. So thank you to all of you. You know, everyone who came up here, and I know it's getting late, I'm not going to go that long because everyone's going to say, yeah, right. But everyone, you know, had a direct tie, basically, to St. Joe, probably except me. I'm a Gary, Indiana kid. I grew up and I coached for 5 years at Central Missouri, and my last year was very, very successful there, probably outside some of their championships, maybe the most successful year ever. And I made a mistake, and I went to what I would call a pseudo Division I program. Actually, it was my alma mater, Valparaiso, who had stepped up into Division I but wasn't ready. And like so many young coaches, I thought it didn't matter, I could get it done, I could do it. I didn't. I walked away on my own, and I was with one of my really, really close friends in my life that passed away not too long ago, Larry Holloway, I think most of you know from William Jewell, who was an outstanding coach. And Larry, we were at the Final Four, and Larry said, there's a job open in St. Joe. I'm like, really? And he said, I think I'm going after it. He said this to me, and I'm like, oh, really? So I went back to Valparaiso and walked into my athletic director's office and said some things I probably shouldn't have. Certainly not to your athletic director, if you want to stay around. Knew it was time to leave, and made a few calls and ended up getting the job here at Missouri Western. And I cannot tell you, for all the people who got up here and what they did for the city of St. Joe, St. Joseph did for me, because they saved my career. And I was received, when I came from day one, well, I can't say day one, I was received with such love, and I felt so good. You know, after I was introduced as the head basketball coach at Missouri Western, until the next day, and I picked up the school newspaper, and some kid had written in and said, undoubtedly we don't care about our basketball program, because we'll hire some guy with a losing record. So it was a great start. It was an absolutely great start. I still haven't been able to track that kid down. I looked through everything and can't find him. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that I knew from the beginning that this was for me. And I knew, and I had some chances to leave. And when I came into this town, and I knew Hilliard was here. Okay, I know most of you won't understand this. I've been to 45 Final Fours. And I can go back to 1967, my first Final Four. And I think, Bob Roth can tell me, I think Bob was tending bar in the Hilliard reception room that I walked in, and I saw every single big-time Mr. Iba, Rupp, all of them were in the Hilliard room. When I walked into this town and knew Hilliard was here, I knew it was a basketball town. And I cannot ever thank all of you any more than I can tonight. And please don't take this the wrong way. I am in several Hall of Fames, and this one means so much to me. because it's you people that supported me. And it's a town, remember, that's divided in a lot of ways. And everyone, you can't get everybody together. Yeah, we can. Just watch this team play and we'll all get together. And we did it for several years. So all I'm gonna ask as I close here is that when I'm gone, and you people that have supported me so well, please make sure they don't take my name off the board.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2022 Saratoga Florida Sport Hall of Fame, Tom Smith. Cutting edge. Sorry, that's 2 words. The cutting edge describes Herzog Motorsports, division of the Herzog companies. Herzog was, has, and will always be ahead of the curve, no pun intended, in the sport of racing. Herzog founded their motorsports division in 1987, starting as an off-road racing team. Throughout their quarter-century racing, Herzog Motorsports owned or sponsored race teams that won championships in SCORE, CORE, SOTA, and NHRA. Their drivers, well, guessing you may have heard some of these names. Ricky Johnson, Todd Bodine, Jeff Green, Larry Ragland, Tony and Cruz Pedregon, and a California native named Jimmy Johnson, who is now a 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, who credits the Herzog family for playing a major role in helping launch his career. Herzog Motorsports was indeed cutting edge and was racing in the Midwest.
Welcome to the final Herzog Motorsport News Update of the century.
Starting as a small-town company here in St. Joseph, Herzog Companies are a world-renowned institution, including on the track.
I think the Herzog racing team and the Herzog Motorsports means a lot to the world of motorsport to accomplish the things they've accomplished in all the various types of motorsports, from off-road, winning the Baja 1000, winning the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, to running that Trailblazer program for General Motors was a huge deal, and then being able to elevate Jimmy Johnson from a young man starting out in the sport to getting him right where he's handed off to the Hendrick team.
I spent so many years with the Herzog family, and honestly would not be where I am in motorsports today without their friendship, their love, their support.
The Herzog Motorsports division started back in 1987, with off-road racing and Ricky Johnson winning 6 of 16 events in 1988. The Herzog team grew quickly, bringing on a newcomer in Jimmy Johnson, who is now a 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion.
They've really changed my life, changed my career, and are so deserving to be in the Hall of Fame.
Move ahead to 2000, the team merged with MLB legend Reggie Jackson to form Herzog Jackson Motorsports, competing in NASCAR's Busch Grand National Series with Johnson, Todd Bodine, and Jeff Green, along with Larry Ragland in off-road the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb.
They were the most tenacious people I had ever met. I mean, they were the kindest, Midwest, wonderful folks, but when they set a goal, their mind on a goal, they were going to accomplish it.
For more than 25 years in motorsports, Herzog's owned or sponsored race teams that won multiple championships and tons of victories. But it wouldn't have been possible if Bill and his sons Stan and Randy didn't start the company here in St. Joseph back in 1969.
The relentless pursuit of success and happiness in what they're trying to accomplish and succeed was so infectious to everybody that raced for them. So I'd sum it up as tenacious.
Ladies and gentlemen, our team inductee this year, Herzog Motorsports. And at this time, please join me in welcoming back to the stage, representing sponsor Herzog Motorsports, Mr. Al Landis.
As you heard earlier when I got up here, I only had a very short season with Herzog for a while, for 48 years, but the reason I'm here is, unfortunately, Bill and Stan, Randy can't be, but I want to acknowledge some people that are here, and a lot of you will know them. Larry Herzog, Gene Bounds, and his wife Renee is here. Unfortunately, we've lost Gene as well. And last but not least, there's a young lady here that went to work for Herzog when she was 18 years old. She's been here over 40 years. I'm not going to give you the exact age she is right now, but I can tell you this. She looked after Bill, Randy, Stan, and me. Lori is never going to lose her job because she knows where all the bodies are buried inside her. I'll tell you that right now. But if you want to go back to talking about the start of it, we were building a light rail system from LA all the way to Long Beach. And one of our superintendents we were in a meeting, and he came out and he was talking about that he had done off-road racing. Well, Stan was in there, that lit his lights up pretty quick. And the next thing we know, we started using our mechanics and Gene and everybody else to build trucks. A truck, a small truck. Well, one thing about Herzog, once we start something, we're pretty focused on what to do with it. And so you can look at it from that standpoint. You know, Stan drove it. But if you go back to a lot of the things that we did, you can talk about off-road. And I'll use an example one. It's called the Baja 1000. For those of you that may not know, that Baja is Baja, Mexico. 1,000 means you had to drive 1,000 miles to win that. And the 500. And then you go into other things that we did. You may not know it, but we used to race up Pikes Peak. Once again, we won that. You hear us talk about Jimmy. I remember the first time I ever met him. We had opened an office in Oceanside, California. We were going to have a kind of a small gathering. So I came there and I saw this kid taking one of our race trucks and trying to get an awning over the top of it. So I went over there. I said, "Can I help you?" He said, "Sure." So I helped him get the awning in. And I said, "I'm Al Davis." He said, "I'm Jimmy Johnson." Well, guess what? When you talk about winning NASCAR 7 times, nobody else has done that. And one thing about Jimmy, I can tell you, what you see there is exactly one of the finest people I've ever been around. But I can go back and remember, I went to work for Herzog in 1972, and today, Herzog does over $1 billion worth of business. We've got it on the books. So we kind of grew up somewhere along the line there. But one thing that we was here, ready for this one, a lot of you have asked the question, how much profit did you make racing anyway? Well, I can tell you this. At one point in time, we had 3 separate facilities, one in California, one in Wisconsin, and one in North Carolina. Obviously, North Carolina was where the NASCAR place was. And then, so Stan one time said, "Al, I want you to kind of check and see just how bad it is." Well, it just won't happen. One of the problems if you're in NASCAR, single car owners are competing against very major other owners who have multiple type things. Well, we finally decided we're not going to race in NASCAR anymore. And then effectively when you go to the other ones. However, so the last thing that we did is we were sponsors with Tony and Cruz Pecadon. If you've ever been into drag racing and you know about fun cars, both of them separately won championships. And that was our focus. If you're going to do it right, go out there and do it, win at the end of the day. So, I can tell you this right now. Bill was my professional father, and Stan and Randy were brothers. The fact I'm sitting here right now, I can tell you they're looking down here and so tickled at the fact that they got selected to be in this Hall of Fame. And with that said, I want to thank you and everybody here. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2022 St. Joseph Area Sports Team Hall of Fame member, Herzog Motorsports. Ladies and gentlemen, here they are, class of 2022. Give them a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, did you have a good time here this evening? All right. Some final thank yous, because these events do not happen themselves. Please thank our host here tonight, Stony Creek Hotel and Conference Center. I also want to thank our media partners who helped us promote this event. MPG, I know Steve Boer's in the room tonight. Lindsay Bernard at KQTV. And also our friends at Equal Communications, and welcome and Tommy Rezach is here this evening. I want to thank our Hall of Fame committee. These individuals on this screen, I mentioned rock stars earlier. These individuals are rock star. I'm indebted to them. Give them a big round of applause. I also want to thank our production team. They are over here to my right. They are tired of getting text messages and phone calls from me. Give it up for Bree Blanton, Quentin Trotter, Chris Roush, and Darren Doyle. Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder to raise some money for Football Hall of Fame and Sports Commission development, we have a silent auction going on, and you saw those items on your way in. All that bidding is mobile. You can do so by following the directions on your screen, qtago.net/qlink/St. Joe Hoff, or you can text STJ Sports to 79230. That auction ends tomorrow evening at 9 p.m., so please find something you like. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I leave you with this, our third annual St. Joseph Area Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony will be in this room around this time next year. If you sat here in this room tonight and said, goodness, I have somebody that needs to be nominated, we welcome you to do so. You can do that on our new website at stjomosports.com. Come into our office at 911 Frederick and pick up a nomination packet. If you said, how can I help support the Sports Commission? You can pick up a membership card on the way out of here tonight. Annual membership is just $100 a year, and you support our missions of supporting sports tourism here in St. Joseph. Ladies and gentlemen, I am grateful to all of you. Also, how about one final round of applause for our presenting sponsor tonight, our friends at Herzog. Remember to follow us on our social media platforms, and ladies and gentlemen, have a great evening. Thank you.